Now that the completion of pointing the facade is coming near, this rainy day feels like the right moment to spread everything out on the table and see where we're heading. You know what? Scratch that. Let's just say our next steps, as far as we can see ahead. The truth is, a 5-year plan doesn't really exist, and for us trying to plan that far ahead is more frustrating than helpful. There are just too many dependencies, waiting for quotes, tradespeople to be available, permits to come through, and the surprises that always pop up when you're living inside a renovation. It's just over 2 years now since we've moved, and in that time we have fixed leaky roofs, turned the old cow barn into a workshop, pointed the facade, cleared up lots of stuff from all the rooms, started a vegetable garden, restored windows and doors, and did a lot of land clearing after decades of neglect. And some things are taking much more time than we expected, while others are going quite a bit faster. Either way, we're learning a lot.
Kom je mee naar de kaars kijken? Kijk eens. Ga je naar die kaartjes kijken?
Here's a map of the farm. Altogether, it's about 900 square meters of built surface area with some 40 rooms, which means it's, I think, about 19 times the size of our small Dutch rental that we used to live in for the past 15 years. And yes, that does sound a bit colossal for just 2 people. Luckily, we don't live here alone. Isa's mom is with us, and we have a steady flow of visiting friends and family. And we'd like to welcome not only friends, but also more workawares, because it's fun to share experience and skills with other people. And a bit further down the line, also run a bed and breakfast and organize workshops and retreats around traditional and natural building, and all sorts of other creative subjects. Probably in that order, though history suggests we might change our minds.
We'll get to our flexible see where it goes plans in a minute, but first we need to address the part that isn't flexible at all: permits and the Italian bureaucracy. In Italy, you can't just change anything you like when you like, inside or out, without official approval. Even small things need a permit if they alter the exterior, the floor plan, or involve pouring foundations or anything structural really. For example, when we removed the plaster from the facade to bring back the stone, that needed a permit because it changed the look of the building. Pointing the barn, no permit needed. The stone is already visible, so it's considered maintenance rather than a change. Some people have asked if we plan to restore a few windows to their original larger size, and that's possible. But yes, a permit is required.
Here's a window that used to be a door at some point. You can see the seams underneath the windowsill. But it doesn't matter that it actually brings the building back to its original state. What does matter is that it will look different from how it looks now.
Permits can feel intimidating at first, but they do have their own logic most of the time. They can take a few weeks or a few months, and once you have one, you get 3 years to finish the work. That's why we try to not have too many running at the same time. And they also cost money, both to the municipality and the geometra, which really helps you think about which changes you really want and need. When renovating in Italy, there's really no way to escape the geometra, basically a mix of architect and surveyor, and permits. They can be a bit of a pain, the permits, hopefully not your geometra, but definitely not all bad. They help ensure old farms like ours are restored in a way that respects the building and stays true to the local style. The new farmhouse isn't really new, but it was built in the late 60s and one of the more recent additions to our over 200 years old farm. So far, we've moved in our things, made ourselves somewhat comfortable, restored and double glazed most of the existing windows, insulated the attic, made plans for the future renovations, and ripped out a monstrous fireplace.
We want to turn the new farmhouse into guest rooms. And we've shared some more detailed plans, at least for the ground floor, in episode 79. And originally we thought having rooms to rent out was pretty urgent for some income. But now that the YouTube channel is doing well, it has become less so. Of course, we are still working on those guest rooms, but in a slower pace.
For a while, we thought we'd be starting here. But renovating this part of the house hinges on about 500 other projects. First of all, we need to create another kitchen and living space elsewhere in the house. What we will start working on in the near future is the outside. We're going to replace all the top floor shutters and paint the walls. We'll have to, because our permit for the painting expires in about 2.5 years. This building, the old winery, that will become my mom's place. This is one of the oldest buildings, dating back to the early 1800s. We've barely touched it so far, only cleaning it out, taking down the fig tree that was growing inside the wall, patching up a hole in the roof, not very neatly, and tearing down what was left of the rotting pergola. But that will hopefully change soon. Many of you have asked when she'll start renovating. She's been looking forward to it for a long time, but there are still a few things that need to be resolved first, and once that's behind her, we'll see what's possible. She's just started getting quotes for renewing the roof, so who knows, it might all begin sooner than we think. We'll be helping with the renovations too, of course. The roof, plumbing and electrics will mostly be done by professionals, but once that's in place, we will help with the interior walls, pointing, plastering and decorating. When we have the roof redone, we hope to preserve as much of the original beams as possible. But there are some beams that have some rot because of old leaks, so they will have to be replaced partly. And also to comply to Italian building code, there will have to be insulation. So probably a lot of the rafters will be replaced or no longer be visible. So it's gonna be a mix of both old and new materials. Our plans for the chapel are to keep it pretty much exactly the way it is. It's quite small actually on the inside, which also doesn't make it really suitable for turning it into anything else. The inside is only 3.7 by 3.2 meters. It doesn't have any really urgent work that needs doing. It's been deconsecrated a long time ago, and technically, I guess we could have it appointed again. But the maintenance of small chapels like ours aren't really something that the church seems to be paying a lot of attention to. The chapel below our house, which is still technically theirs, is appointed, but the roof could collapse any day now. We've seen it getting progressively worse since living here. So for us, keeping our little chapel deconsecrated and our own responsibility feels like the right thing to do. At some point, the roof will have to be relaid, and also the bay laurel tree next to it will have to come down, which makes me really sad because I really like that tree. But it's too close to the building and it threatens both the roof and the foundations. At some point, we'll add in a simple floor using either lime or natural stone or both. Perhaps point the inside walls for structural stability. Our geometra has told us that we ideally should point the archway at least, because that would give it some extra strength. And we might need to add a gate or a door, because apparently it's sometimes treated like a public toilet when we're not around, sadly. Since moving in, we've cleaned out the mess that was the barn, replaced a rotten lintel, made and installed windows, built 2 massive workbenches, and lots of storage space. So that this is now the workshop where we build the things this place needs, one piece at a time.
Eventually, the barn might become a living space, but for now it's our workshop, and it needs to stay that way for quite a while.
We don't know yet when we'll get round to turning this into our home. It might be a decade from now.
After that, if we still plan to turn it into our own home, and the plans don't change, the workshop will move into the warehouse. We also still have to make the hayloft roof leak-free and replace the sandstone slabs with roof tiles.
This is the hayloft, which is right above the workshop.
The reason that we want to live here is that we immediately fell in love with this space once we saw it. And while the previous owners did a good job in making the new part of the farmhouse in the same style as the old part, the same wall thickness, the same type of window openings, this is the part that we want to grow old in ourselves. But while we really want that, it's not where we're going to start. The new farmhouse already has a new roof, and it is the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, to turn that into guest rooms first. And this also means that during the coming years of renovating, where we are living will change, and we will slowly make our way through the building from the new farmhouse through the old farmhouse to hopefully end up in the barn and hayloft part.
Next spring, we plan to continue pointing for a few weeks, starting on the barn walls so that the whole front of the house will look nice. It might not seem important, but it's made such a difference in the feel of the house, and it brings us a lot of joy. This is the extension at the back of the house. It was built in the 60s or 70s, but we're not entirely sure with what purpose. The small rooms at the ground level were probably intended for animals, perhaps pigs, but they don't look like they've ever been used. We cleared it out both inside and outside. It was totally overgrown with brambles, and inside we found a typical mix of all sorts of random things. We've been using it a lot over the past 2 years as a painting atelier where we've painted all of the windows, shutters and doors. And so we have been using it, it's in fairly good shape, but the roof needs work, and that's something that we can't postpone for too long. When we do that, we would like to tackle this whole section of roof. On this drawing, which is our future vision, it's already one roof, but at the moment there's a split here, and these are actually two separate roofs at slightly different height. And there's a lot of problems with leaks on the edge between the two roofs, and it makes a lot of sense to pull them all together, turn them into one roof, avoiding potential leaks in the future as well. This piece of roof is in a pretty bad state. It was never really laid in a good way, and the front edge, which still has slate sandstone slabs, is starting to have many leaks, so the beam in the front is slowly rotting away. When we arrived, the warehouse was full of all sorts of old agricultural machinery. A lot of it no longer functional, and most of it no longer needed. We've given away a few things to neighbors and had the rest picked up by the ironmonger. Currently, we're using it as our firewood storage, to store building materials, and to park our cars. One of the things we'd love to do at some point is deal with the warehouse and its asbestos roof. The corrugated roof is still in very good shape, and it isn't a health hazard at the moment. Our geometra has checked it.
And in case the roof starts getting bad, there's a paint that's specifically designed to seal in the fibers of the asbestos. We can't remove the asbestos ourselves in Italy, you're not allowed. When it's over 30 square meters, and this is about 4 times as much. So we'll have to have a professional or company come in and do it for us.
Before replacing the roof, we first hope to get a permit to reduce the size of the building by half. The half that we demolish will become a garden terrace, and the half that will remain will be the future workshop.
The part that we want to take down is this part, which is already open, because it shuts off the house from some of the best views.
And when we change the roof, we'll change it to tiles instead of corrugated cement, like everywhere else on the property. This roof would also be a good spot for solar panels. And what I would really like to do next year is finish plastering this side of the warehouse that the previous owners never completed. But I've been saying this to Burgess for 2 years now, so we'll see if it actually happens.
We need a second functional kitchen before we can move forward with renovating the new farmhouse. So we're turning the old kitchen into a functional kitchen again.
You may remember this space. We call it the old kitchen because it's the kitchen in the old farmhouse from before the new farmhouse was built.
And until then, we can't rip out the kitchen that we're currently using to cook and live in.
Last winter, we fixed the roof all along the backside so that the old farm is now dry and leak-free.
We've already started with some prep work this spring with taking off the old plaster, and we'll continue with this winter. And this space definitely needs new windows because the current old ones aren't suited for double glazing, and the one on the back is in a really bad shape. In December we'll share some more detailed plans for this kitchen when Isis has had a chance to look into layouts and mood boards. But before any of that can happen, we need to deal with something we find much less inspiring than plumbing and electrics.
Just before moving in, we had the electricity and plumbing connected again. But having running water in the pipes for the first time in a good while, we found out that the 30 meters of pipe in front of the house were completely corroded. So our first project after moving in was digging a trench and replacing that piece of old iron pipe. The boiler that was already in the house ran on gas, so we had a new gas tank installed. In the Italian countryside, gas is delivered not through the grid, but houses have their own tank that gets filled periodically. It was by far the fastest way to get warm water and being able to enjoy hot showers. But now we're at a point where we can't really ignore all the other work that needs to be done to update the old wiring and plumbing.
We have been sort of postponing this because it involves a lot of decisions about the whole property. For example, how do we use each of the rooms, and to how many watts do we want to upgrade the system. And this will determine what kind of distribution board we are going to need, because the old outdated fuse box, this fuse box that only allows 3,500 watts, definitely needs replacing. Besides our slow decision making, we're also waiting for the availability of tradespeople. For example, our plumber is only available in 3 months from now to start talking about the installation of 2 storage tanks for mains water and rainwater.
After all the problems with water delivery this summer, this is important work.
Mains water in here.
These cellars have such a low ceiling height that they aren't really convenient for anything else, but they'd be pretty perfect for water storage. An added advantage of putting tanks inside an existing building is that we don't need a permit to install them.
And the rainwater storage tanks around here. And by the way, this is the project that we're currently saving up for with our brand collaborations. Even. Ja. And it just comes down to that we need to make the time to sit down and draw a utilities plan for the house and take it from there. And the 3D model I drew over the last summer should really help with that.
So, those are the domino pieces of our renovation. The plumbing and electrics are the one that sets everything else in motion. Before we can renovate a new farmhouse, we need to build a second kitchen in the old one. Once the extension roof is dry, we can turn that space into a temporary studio for ourselves. And only then can we think about hosting guests. Before we can turn the barn into our own living space, we have to deal with the warehouse and its asbestos roof and move the workshop over there. The winery sits slightly outside of that chain of dependencies, so that will unfold alongside everything else. And in between waiting for permits and tradespeople, we'll keep doing the things that fill the cracks. We'll make shutters, paint the facade, continue pointing, do landscaping, grow food, and perhaps, who knows, bring chickens to the farm.